Last week I asked if you could turn any World of Warcraft 5-man dungeon into a 25 or 40-man raid, which would you pick and why? Now, I got over 140 responses, I believe, to that last video, and I read through all of them, read through every single one. And before we get into the winner, I want to do one quick thing. I want to show a little thing I looked up here. Now, my channel is probably somewhat biased towards classic content, because I have a lot of videos related to classic WoW. However, the top 5 dungeons that were selected to be modernized or improved or changed, whatever you want to call it, into a 40-man raid were Deadmines as the #1 choice with 16 votes. Blackrock Depths was 2nd. Stratholme was 3rd. If you count the culling of Strat, that would actually push it up to not being tied for 3rd, but actually have a lead over what would be our 4th place pick, which was Gnomeregan. And finally, Scarlet Monastery was the 5th most chosen 5-man dungeon. One interesting thing is, almost everyone that chose Gnomeregan said, I know no one else is going to agree with me, but I would choose Gnomeregan. They all seemed to really doubt their choice in Gnomeregan, but they were actually one of the more heavily picked 5-man dungeons. Kind of an interesting thing there. So, Blizzard, if you ever want to modernize an old 5-man dungeon into a full-fledged 40-man raid, or 25-man raid rather, maybe Deadmines would be a popular choice. So with that said, let's start with our 3rd place, which there's no prize for anyone except for 1st place, but I have a 2nd and 3rd place in mind in case the 1st place winner never reaches out to me. I can never get a hold of them. In that case, it'll go down to 2nd place and then 3rd place. In 3rd place, we have a pick from Joanne. Now, for Joanne's, I'm not going to read the entire comment, but Joanne selected Zul'Farrak from Vanilla World of Warcraft, and Zul'Farrak is one of my favorite instances, actually. It really is a really fun instance, and Joanne makes some good points here. Like, Gazrilla really is close to being a raid quality encounter. You would need to scale up the damage and stats and everything for 25 or 40 man, but the mechanics are there. The freeze mechanic, the slam mechanics, these are things that actually would be kind of fun in a raid environment. And the way you summon Gazrilla is actually a very cool way to interact to bring forth the boss. So needing someone maybe scale up and say multiple people need to have the components to ring the gong, I think that's a cool way you could take this 5-man dungeon and move it up into a full-fledged raid. So not our winner, but a really good 3rd place in my opinion. My second favorite choice was from Rush344. This was the Throne of Tides dungeon. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't actually ever played the Throne of Tides dungeon, so I had to go and look it up. So I went and looked up some videos on it, and I want to go play it now because it looks amazing. It's a really beautiful instance. And I see I've even recommended it in the comment. I almost forgot this. Rush recommends that I level in Vashj'ir, so when I get to Cataclysm, so I can really see some of this content. But Throne of Tides looks like a great instance, and I can easily see, just from the aesthetics of the instance, it being scaled up into a 25 or 40-man raid without question. It looks amazing. I really enjoy the environment from watching it. I watched a few Let's Plays on it. It's a very cool-looking instance. I haven't played it myself, like I said, but I think this is a really good choice for something that can be pulled into a full 25-man raid. Now, our grand winner is from The Martinez. So if you are this person, The Martinez, you need to reach out to me at my email address, supasoka@gmail.com. It's on the screen here. You can also find it in my About section of my YouTube channel. If you are The Martinez, I need you to email me, and I have a way for you to prove that you are the real Martinez and not someone claiming to be you. So please, if you are The Martinez, send me an email, and I'll get back to you, and I'll show you what you need to do to actually prove that you are who you say you are. So The Martinez says, if you can edit the size, the number of bosses, etc., I would definitely pick the Stockades. Now, of the 140 or so entries I had, no one else that I saw recommended the Stockades. One other person did mention it as a possible option, but went on to kind of talk about other instances. Martinez is the only one that said the Stockades, and I'm going to explain why I think this is a great choice and a very interesting choice. So Martinez says, it is such a shame that it's so small. Imagine a huge underground complex that would have multiple stories, and the lower you go, the more dungeons and enemies will get. On the bottom, there will be cells with the most wanted criminals that turn Stockades into their lair. I think it's a really fun idea, and current Stockades doesn't really feel like a prison. That's just my thought, though. There are so many good dungeons that would be great as raids like Scarlet Monastery. Right, so this is why I like this idea so much. So the Martinez is correct. The Stockades as is very small, and there's not that many bosses. Obviously, with all these suggestions, things would need to be kind of extended and expanded and widened, and more trash mobs would be put in, or more bosses, change of loot tables, change of stats, all these things, right? So obviously, every suggestion, things have to be changed. But the stockades is a really cool idea that it got me really excited about this. So a couple people mentioned, one person mentioned Ragefire Chasm. The reason why I bring up Ragefire Chasm is because the stockades is to my knowledge, besides Violet Hold, I don't think there's any instances besides Violet Hold, the stockades, and Ragefire Chasm, there were instances inside of a capital city. That's to my knowledge. I could be wrong. There's a lot of instances. In fact, over 40 instances were chosen of the 144 comments I got. So all sorts of instances were chosen. But the stockades is in Stormwind, and Ragefire Chasm is in Orgrimmar. Now, no one really cares that those are in each other's. Like, very few Horde players have ever gone to stockades, and very few Alliance players have ever gone to Ragefire Chasm, except maybe to mess around at higher levels. I mean, really, there's not a lot of point. It's not worth the effort. You're going to out-level the gear pretty quickly anyway. But then the idea came to me from reading this, and I was like, what? How cool would it be if Blizzard, for the Battle for Azeroth expansions coming up, the idea being that this is a somewhat, Alliance vs. Horde type of expansion, what if they released raids, let's say 2 raids, simultaneously, one being inside a Horde capital city, one being inside an Alliance capital city? Now, I'm sure there's a million reasons why that's a terrible idea, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to ever think of that terrible idea. But how cool would it be to have something like that where you literally have to move your entire 25-man raid and get into it? Let's say there's no teleportation allowed, and the only way to get there is literally you have to walk in, even for looking for a raid. I know that's like the worst possible thing, but and I know I'm a person that plays looking for raids, so I shouldn't be someone that wants to like crush it. But how much fun would that be if you actually had to battle through Stormwind to get into your progression raid? And I know people are going to say that's a terrible idea, and like hardcore raiders are going to like thumbs down this video and think I'm stupid. But I love this idea, and I know that's not exactly what the Martinez necessarily was saying. But by choosing the stockades and saying that should be the raid, that opens up so many ideas. Now imagine if the stockades was let's say we're looking at Legion, and we're looking at the Argus raid, right? The very last progression raid, the very last raid for the Legion expansion. If Argus were stationed in the center of Orgrimmar or something, or let's say it was like in the Drag and it was like buried inside of Orgrimmar, that would be a pretty terrible idea if that was the final raid, and it'd be a huge imbalance, right? If Alliance had to fight through to get there, but Horde never had to worry about it, and they just could just go in, or they could just sit outside and grief Alliance all day that were trying to get in. I mean, that would be pretty terrible. Now, if they made 2 raids at the same time that were different content and different gear drops, different everything, but the level of the gear was similar, then you'd be in a scenario where an Alliance guild could just raid in the Alliance only, or the Alliance stationed raid if they wanted, or the Horde could just be in the Horde only raid if they wanted. But the very high level guilds that really want to be on the cutting edge, they want to do both, obviously. They want as much gear as they can get every reset. So those guilds are going to not only do their Alliance, like the Alliance guilds would not only do their Alliance-centered raid, but they would fight their way through whatever Horde capital city that is to get to the Horde raid so they can also get that gear. And I think that's a really cool idea. I think there's a lot of terrible things about it that I'm sure would be really hard to implement, but I really like the idea overall. And the Martinez got me thinking about this, and so that's why I've chosen the Martinez as the winner for this competition. Don't lose hope. Everyone else, there will be more of these competitions in the next couple of weeks. The next one is going to be much, much simpler. It's going to have to do with gnomes, and it's going to be a very strict word cap. So it's going to be much shorter and much easier to enter. But I think that'll be a much more fun and relaxing one, so a little bit more complicated maybe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Now, the Martinez, if you're out there, email me, supasoka@gmail.com, and I will get back to you, and I will get you your shirt, your hat, your stickers, and your gift card as soon as possible.